Hello, everyone. I'm Kerilie McDowall, and I'm joining you here with Christine Jensen from Montreal on Easy Jazz Spotlight. I'm here on Vancouver Island in Nanaimo, British Columbia, and Christine is in Montreal, and she is a multi-award-winning, multi-Juno award-winning composer and saxophonist. And we're so pleased to have her here today on Easy Jazz Spotlight. Welcome, Christine.
Thanks for having me, Carolee.
Well, it's just a thrill to have you on the show today. You know, you just accomplished so much over your career, and it's exciting to get to speak to someone as inspiring as you. Now, I guess we'll start off with a bit of background. How did you first get started with the saxophone and music in general?
Um, well, my mother settled us in Cedar by the Sea, south of Nanaimo, where we had a view of the ocean and the forest, and we were just jumping into it all the time, along with taking piano lessons, and that's myself and my two older sisters. Uh, and once piano kept going or was over, we ended up in band class with some great Nanaimo music teachers, and my mom was a music teacher as well of elementary education. So we had really good music in our house all the time that we were listening to.
That's fantastic. Now, I guess what I also want to know is, you know, when did you first start composing? Was that young? Did you start right away, or did that come later?
No, it came much later. Probably first and I think this happens with most jazz musicians. First you have to learn the language of jazz and then you have to learn to improvise. And then maybe that composition thing is something that intertwines in the study of the music and what we want to do, and it's jazz is a different form than other forms that way. So I kind of jumped in probably by taking composition classes, a little bit of theory too. Theory gets you composing, and eventually people just were like, "Hey, I like playing your music." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then I just kept writing more and more, and that's how I fell into it.
Yeah. Now, who were some of those first early influences? Who were you listening to back then?
Um, it was through I studied saxophone, classical and jazz, but mostly jazz. But I had really good teachers at McGill that taught me both. And just getting the facility of the instrument and then applying it to song forms in jazz. Um, I would say those early influences were just the hits you hear all the time, whether it was Horace Silver or Pat Metheny or um, gosh, so many of the very lyrical blue note composers out there, Herbie Hancock, all these people just these musicians left such a mark to my ear. I'm like, I want to make that, I want to recapture that sound. And at the same time, it's a bit of a blender because you're also pulling from other influences like my pop influences and my classical influences and my um, probably more modal post 70s influences and just mixing them up. So hopefully in composition, I'm just stating it's hard to make new sounds or fresh sounds. And I think by letting that go and just doing the study of it and just having fun with the music and learning and processing the knowledge that has been left behind from all these great composers, I hope to push into new directions sometimes. I don't even hope. I just try things. And
Who were
that's what
some of
happens.
the pop artists that you were listening to? I'm just curious.
Well, I'm a child of the 80s. So
Okay.
I was listening to Cyndi Lauper talk the other day. I was like, oh, I used to listen to her a lot. But definitely Sting. I always attribute, yeah, I always attribute the Police actually to my upbringing and ska music. I listened to that a lot. It just was around through my friends and through my sister's friends. Um, and then not necessarily all those amazing songwriters that came out of the 70s, which I wish I had more ambition and love to have listened to then, but I don't think I understood the music at a young age. So now I'm really into Paul Simon and Joni Mitchell more so than when I was a kid. It's not music I listen to. I listen to Harry Carney or Duke Ellington's band or Count Basie's band with singers or Rosemary Clooney because that's what my mother was playing and a lot of Oscar Peterson. So that kind of oh, and Bill Evans. I was obsessed with Bill Evans when I was
Mm.
15 and 16. I was like, this is the greatest music I've ever heard. And a lot of the students I teach now, they've come out of the same sort of epiphany of Bill Evans. I don't know why. It's a very long, sorted conversation, but there's something Bill did that was different than everybody else with sound. And I think that was a big influence on me. And then, of course, he worked with some popular musicians like Tony Bennett and those kind of things. Every sort of impressionistic color he made, I was very into, which was coming off of Gil Evans and Miles Davis. So I was listening to that a lot too. I could go on about what I was listening to as a kid. Things just led down funny paths, and I had good teachers that tried to feed me lots of different music.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that you were listening to Bill Evans. He was such a lyrical, writer and soloist. He was phenomenal. Now, I guess I should ask you also, about these awards because you've been ragging them up. You've already won three Juno Awards. You won the Montreal, I guess it was the Prix de Montreal Festival de
Oh,
Jazz, and
yeah, the pre Oscar Peterson.
yeah, the Oscar Peterson and many other awards and I mean they're just really starting to get a bit too numerous to count at this point. And I just wanted to kind of get your reflection on that. What does it mean to be a multi-award winning artist and to kind of really have done it all almost at this point by becoming a multi-Juno award winning jazz artist, which would be no easy feat for anyone in Canada. You've really been amongst the top echelon of jazz artists in Canada. And so I just wanted to get your reflections on that and what it means to you, or how you're feeling about it.
Well, I guess it's just an honor to be recognized and that my peers and my advisors and my the public around me has embraced my music beyond me pushing it on them. I don't tend to push my music on anyone. I have a great team. I've had a great team of relationships with my manager agent Heidi Fleming. As hard as it is to do anything in jazz, she's definitely propelled me in a way slow. It's been slow and steady in a way. And in fact, it didn't happen until I won my first Juno. I think my first Juno, I was like, oh, that I can't believe I won. I mean, I'm shocked. I was just so surprised. I had done a big band album and put my heart into it. I do remember that, and I remember my producer being very like, that there was some magic in there kind of thing. And also just creating a sonic environment through recording, which is always, a tricky element of lining up a lot of deciding factors of what you want with the purpose of the sound you're making. So sometimes you got to shake it and let it go and trust others to guide you through this. So I had a lot of guidance with between my sister and my producer Paul Johnston, who's in Edmonton now, and Heidi, and just in time a bit, and a previous label, Effendi Records. They kind of helped me in some ways, just really working on the craft of the smaller side of things. So all of that tumbled together eventually. It's just things. It's like spinning planets around my sun, and I'm just spinning them, and I'm one's cooler, one's hotter, and it's all just stuff in motion. So I always have stuff going on. I always have projects in mind. I always want to work more on composition, but I also get pulled into being a teacher now too. So I'm going on, but yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk about
it's
that in
really it's nice. It's nice to be recognized. I wish it on everyone. I hope everybody that works hard and makes really cool sounds that are new, hopefully, and engage, not even new, just engaging sound that is really at a high level in jazz. I hope that they get recognized because it's a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, you've also been honored by Downbeat with a 5-star review, which is no easy feat, let me tell you. I was writing for Downbeat for many years,
Yeah.
and we don't give out those fives
No,
very
I heard
easily.
that the fives get a little bit of a conversation,
Oh yeah, like that's a
and
serious,
I
serious
got
thing.
4.5 and 4.5 and 4.5, and then I got a five, and I was like, yeah, that's nice. And then, well, we can keep talking about the sort of progress I've made. I mean, I have to say, large ensemble is an incredibly rewarding event, but it's also a big focus that takes you away from being a performer sometimes. So, I have to split between the two activities.
Yeah, and we should talk about that, let's talk about Day Moon, I guess. Now that was an important release since it took place during the pandemic, that whole period, where you've commented on your website that you felt quite alone during that period, and your band was like your haven, your refuge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
and I just
small
wanted,
band, not a large band.
yeah, it was a quartet, right? So
Yeah.
so maybe you could just talk about that album and maybe what you were thinking of during the writing of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's separate thoughts. I was just writing sketches. I tend to write etude form or what's the other word someone was saying? Yeah, just writing etudes for yourself, whether they're single lines or piano etudes. And then I was gradually working them through how I would hear it on my saxophone. And then I was playing a lot of duo with my friend Steve Amiro, who lives here in Montreal, and he's one of Canada's gem, unique individuals of harmonic, melodic, rhythmic activity on the piano. Um, just very full of music, and we were kind of working over stuff duo because it was the pandemic, and I had a very small circle of friends and family that I could be with, and I couldn't be with a lot of my family because I wasn't allowed to travel outside of Montreal, basically. There was a point
Hmm.
where we couldn't leave the island. Um, so I just, in this room that I'm sitting in, I hacked away at writing. Oh, I got a commission through, there was this Fundamental Freedoms Commission or Fundamental something commission out of New York from the jazz industry, and they gave me a little bit of money to be commissioned. So I wrote a suite of music for a small group, and that's what ended up being Day Moon
Hmm.
and the activity of that suite of
Now,
ideas, which were all very, solitary ideas.
yeah, very reflective,
Yeah.
introspective. Yeah. So
Well,
as a
I mean, full of emotions. I mean, there was anger, there was fantasy, there was a lot of, yeah, I haven't thought about that album in a while. It was a lot of different emotions and tempos created that. So,
Yeah, it was a difficult period, obviously, for everyone. Now, as a composer, though, you developed a really gorgeous approach to using colors and timbres, or what we would say, sort of sounds, especially in a jazz orchestra setting. And I wanted you to talk about your compositional process. As you know, Christine, I'm always fascinated with what you're doing with the composing. And so I wanted to know what fascinates you the most about that whole process and your experimentation with it.
yeah, I mean, it's all again reflecting on moods. And the mood can come again from the melody or the harmony or the rhythm, basically. Or maybe there's a combination of those things. But you have to start from nothing and just come up with a new sound or a new shape. That's the best way I can put it. And then I tend to use a lot of strong voice leading at the piano eventually to make it, or not, but mostly. I might play around with it and see how far I can go. If you think about composers like Jobim or Claire Fisher or who was I thinking of? Michel Legrand, of course. These are very romantic people I'm mentioning that had a way with everything making sense, and it's not far off from Bach and making sense and being able to play all four parts together or three parts or even two parts. You gotta have two parts probably. Um, Depends who you're talking to. But yeah, it's a process of finding a sound and really working it. And that's kind of what I do. And I am definitely more coming from the romantics into the modal composers with
Yeah.
the
Now you're not just a saxophonist and composer, you're also well known, as you mentioned before, as a jazz educator and a leader in that area. How do you best like to work with your students, Christine?
in any situation that involves them working on music with me.
What are some of the processes you take them through?
Um, First I get them to it's much like writing, songwriting or anything where I need them to journal their ideas. I don't work with lyrics so much, although I'm fine if they go toward the lyric and if it enables something, it's great. Um, but generally we're working on just building form. This is what composition is. You're building form. The form might be given to you already and you have to work inside it, but generally I'm more interested in them building their own form and creating forms that are really interesting. And form is like a basic principle or a basic kind of way of dealing with something mathematically or even chemistry wise or physics wise. It's like form is form. It's been around. There's binary form, there's sonata form, there's song form of ABAC or AABA. We listen to that a lot in popular music. We want to hear something twice and then we have to have a response to it. Sometimes more, maybe two or three times, but I'm telling you, it's something about engaging the yin and the yang of the piece so that there's a question and a response which goes back to the blues. So I actually spend a lot of time on the blues with my students and just the idea of what the blues form means, whether it's harmonic or melodic. Um, and then I have them do a lot of analysis. If without analysis, they can't really understand form. So Duke Ellington is a big one.
Score study, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
score study
yeah.
and score reduction,
Hmm.
oral skills of listening to form, and also just listening to music they've never heard and getting their reaction from it. So, um, a lot of contemporary music, as in music that is alive right now, is people exploring these very same concepts. And jazz is interesting because um, you tend to want to be able to use the soloing aspect or the section of not written down material as the bouncing off point of development. So form can really take a different reaction that way
Yeah.
or action.
Yeah, yeah. And form is so important. For maybe people that don't understand what we're talking about when we say form, it's the general hierarchy of the composition and how it's structured into,
Yeah,
section. Yeah,
there's basic
yeah,
choices. What key are you in? Is there a key?
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
there's no key. Maybe you're writing 12 tone. There's a lot of aspects you can put on form, whether it's a Schoenberg aspect or a
Mm-hmm,
or something again, Jobim like he wrote some extensive forms and
mm-hmm,
and very
mm-hmm.
much became popular music.
Well, I should ask you, is there any item on your bucket list that you haven't conquered yet because you've already done so much and you're still quite young?
Oh, I probably want to write some more large ensemble music that maybe has some different uh it's orchestration aspects to it. Work with vocals some more. There's a my friend Sienna Dolan is always in my life, and we
Mm-hmm.
did a project with the Orchestre National Jazz, which was her putting lyrics on my music with a lot of forms that I had to really pound out over 60 minutes of music. And she did a great job. Um, but to explore something like that some more, like write really concrete pieces and then work on expanding them and orchestrating them with a different instrumentation. I'm not sure, but um, that would entail sitting down by myself for a very long time, like I always have to do, which gets in the way of a lot of my other planets.
Well, I better ask you what you practice on the saxophone, because so many
Oh.
saxophonists would want to know that.
Well, I tend to work on sound development, which is just long tones, and then some technical development over dominance because we have to work on dominant sevenths a lot. And just being fluid with that and working on rhythmic exercises um, and etudes that move my fingers in places I wouldn't go. So I have them on my piano right here. Guy Lacour, he's always with me. He's works on the Messiaen modes. And yeah, and then playing along with the recordings that make me want to match my sound to them, which is always fun. Could be anything again, but mostly I might try to learn stuff by ear. Right now, I'm really involved in Coltrane. I took a few days off, but I start to just hear only these sounds. And he's, it's interesting that it's his 100th birthday, so people are opening up his book, but I didn't realize he wrote some, like, how astounding his compositional output was and how he changed the sound of jazz through his compositional choices of color. You know, he was working with Miles and playing standards, and then he was doing some standards, and then he was doing his matrix, which is incredible, his giant steps event, and then heading into this very basic modal situation, which was about being in a vibe and being in a place of kind of spiritually trying to take it to another level through some basic modal moves.
Yeah.
And the blues, again, the blue, tons of blues, tons of gospel, tons of church, tons of question, again, that question and response, which comes off the church through preaching. All that stuff, I think, is very valid to understand. Um, Taking music to people and giving it some soul and some heart so that people react to what you're doing. I guess.
Yeah, I felt that way about your album Tree Lines, as a person here living, in a West Coast rainforest myself on a
Yeah.
mountain, for me, that was a real spiritual delve, and all with the topics all about trees and you grew up here on the West Coast, and that's an album that I always return to, and I have to say I just love Western You. I
Oh,
just
thanks.
love that track so much. And what I loved about that album was just how impressionistic you were, how you could
Yeah.
actually hear through how you had written the compositions. You could hear the wind moving through the trees, and imagine the trees swaying in the wind and all the kind of the impressionistic sort of things that were coming up for me when I listened to that album. I just honestly loved it. Yeah,
Oh, thanks.
just loved it. But that must have been quite a spiritual kind of delve for you, or was it, was it more intellectual because it came across, just as beautifully spiritual?
I have to think back to the tracks, but one was Dancing Sunlight for Emily Carr. I just loved looking at her paintings and how she captured light and dark
Hmm.
through the trees and that feeling of rain or the feeling of drying off the forest or the feeling of the forest being stripped by industrial movements. She's got some earth shattering visuals with that. I always thought that was like really where I related so much to what she did. The emotion of her paintings to me, yeah, I was trying to capture them in, especially in a few pieces. But then I did Dancing Sunlight, Red Cedar, which was based on one of her paintings, Western Yew, which was based on me walking through yew trees and understanding them, and Arbutus. Oh my God, she never painted Arbutus.
Yeah.
Those are very specific trees to my childhood.
Very special trees. Yeah.
And my whole thing was like looking at them from the point of view of being on the water,
Mm.
like being in a boat and driving by them because that's what I did as a kid. We'd be navigating along coastal shorelines, and I'd be like, ah, our beauties, they're so beautiful with their red and their green.
Yeah,
And
they've
these
got
are
a red bark. So people that don't
yeah,
know what they are, but they've got a red bark and it sort of peels off and it's almost like
and
a
they have to,
bare look,
yeah,
windy kind of trunk.
red
Yeah.
and green and all that. But
Yeah.
you have to be very close to the ocean for those to grow, which
Hmm.
makes them a little different from madronas. I think madronas are more south if you go down the California coast and they grow more mountainous. Whereas arbutus, if you start going up a certain elevation, you're not going to see them. They have to be within the salt line.
Well,
That's the only thing.
this is going to sound strange, but I live on a mountain like three-quarters of the way up, and
Yeah.
I've got arbutus on my property, and I don't know how they got here.
Yeah, I mean they just grow near
Yeah.
water, near salt water, if I recall.
Yeah, I
But
don't
there are
know.
lake ones too, so I don't know how far in they go. But
I'm close to
it's
a lake.
very
I'm close
specific.
to a lake. I'm
It's
close to a
so
lake.
specific. And whenever I get that song play, and they're also larger than Madronas, so it's the same family. It's the Madrona family, but it's a really interesting wood. It has, and of course, all these growing up as a kid, going to school and learning about indigenous practices with the trees, just of that isolated region, gave me a lot to talk about with what I learned as a kid, like the properties of these trees. One heals cancer, one weaves baskets, and one, there's like medicinal properties to all of them.
When you
That
say one heals cancer, which one would that be?
that was Western U,
Was
apparently.
it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
have cancer
that.
healing properties, apparently.
I also hear that about the fir tree.
I
Fir.
haven't written about fur. It was on my list. Fur.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
had a
yeah.
hard time with fur. I don't know why. It'll come. Maybe that's going to be something else.
Yeah, well, listen, I really love that album. It was a very deep album and just beautiful, beautifully done. Now, I also wanted to ask what some of the highlights have been, as a composer and as a performer for you. If you were going to like just sort of list off a couple, do any particular instances come to mind of special moments? It may be
Um,
hard to do that, but
the beautiful thing is that a lot of this music transfers to other people. Like they find my music and they go, "Hey, come play with me," and then I end up performing my music with incredible orchestras around the world. And sometimes I'm like, "That's the best I've heard that piece," or but then I also have my own ensemble if I can ever get the funding together or the right circumstances together to play with them. Hauling around a 20-piece orchestra is never easy. So,
very pricey too, very
yeah,
pricey.
it's better
Yeah.
that I go visit these other orchestras sometimes, and at least it's weird. It's like my music is a living document. It keeps going. A lot of stuff we do, we write for ourselves and we keep it within a small group and we learn it and nobody else plays it. But in this case, um, I'm very lucky. I have people really wanting to perform my music, whether I'm there to perform it with them or not. So
Hmm.
it gets spread around, which is kind of cool. Like it's kind of cool to know that some ensemble played Western U and now they've caught the spirit of what I was trying to go for, like you heard.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, it was just beautifully done that particular piece. Yeah. I really recommend that album, Tree Lines. All your albums have been great. I also really loved Collage, your very first album. I
Oh
know
yeah.
you weren't as big on it because it was your first, maybe, but I just love some of the work on that. Some of the writing was just great. I loved it. I really loved the writing
Yeah.
on that album. Your first delve, it was great.
I
Um,
still play, yeah, I still play some of that music. So
yeah, and Ingrid was really sounding really strong on that as well, who's your sister, the trumpet player, flugelhornist, and
yeah.
she's very well known in New York, for those who know her as well. But I wanted to ask, if you could give advice to a young jazz composer, what would your top three be?
Oh, wow. Well, learn the music first before you think you can be a jazz composer. You've got to really pay some dues and check it out. Check out the history of the music. Um, Second, find people that will play your music. Uh, Study with someone that can teach you ways to make sure your music is I use the word efficient a lot of the time. Like, does this efficiently work? Is it easy to play, even though it's hard, maybe that you wrote? Why is it so difficult? Learning just basic principles of melodic construction, all that stuff. There's lots of books on it. There's lots of conversations on it out there on the internet too. But the best thing you can do is combine all that with people around you that will support your vision and play with them. So jazz is very urban. So urban environments tend to lead to stronger executions of events, in my opinion.
Hmm. Well, and I guess, the orchestra, you really bring it to life with the colors. Like I've always been so like surprised by some of the sound you get with orchestra, like really reminiscent of someone as great as Gil Evans. Let's get back to the big band writing. It's not for sissies, so
No,
it's
it's
not
been
for sissies.
a
So how do you go about developing your orchestral approaches and composing for jazz orchestra? Like that's a whole topic unto itself, right?
yeah, I mean, Gil Evans definitely was a sound I really was encouraged by. He also broke a lot of rules with how he tended to orchestrate things. And he also worked in some simple modal aspects, much like Coltrane. Coltrane just never took it to the large ensemble, for many reasons, because he had his own sound in within that quartet. They had their own orchestration going on between McCoy Tyner and Elvin and Jimmy Garrison, and how the approach was of the feeling of movement through the music. So you can start with Gil, and I mean, before Gil is Duke Ellington for me, anyway. And there's a lot of, I don't know, popular popular kind of music that was around there at the time with large ensembles because it was dance music. So music for dancing, which is where the
Hmm.
push and pull was for Ellington and a bunch of others, especially Stan Kenton and uh, Count Basie. Count Basie stuck to his guns with the dance element, I think, but the others were more heading into elements, concert music elements of the whole thing. So understanding all of that is kind of what leads me to keeping that idea of that propulsion of swing, especially because swing can get lost. I think that's the dance of it. And although I love straight too, and I do lots of straight music. So it's a combination of, you know, different times all pushed together into Christine's world, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and I just wanted to ask you too, I- people are probably wondering, well, what does she do other than music? Like, does she have any hobbies? Do you do art or do you do any other sort of things in your spare time?
Well, I have a daughter and she's a teenager, so we do lots of teenager things.
Nice. Yeah.
I work a lot with teaching, so the weekends tend to be full of activities with her, or right now I have a summer off, a little bit, a few weeks to myself, where I tend to just be in water and paddleboard and bike. So that's my
Uh, that's great.
that's my happy place for
Yeah,
sure.
the water. Yeah, the water. Speaking of water, you did a whole theme of water with who was it? Let me see. It was jazz orchestra composer Jill Townsend, didn't you?
Oh
So
yeah, we wrote
yeah,
songs about water. That was fun.
yeah.
Her
That
coming from the East Coast, me coming from the West Coast, me living on the
yeah,
East Coast, her living on the West Coast. So
yeah,
yeah, that was fun.
yeah. And then like so, I'm always wondering, well, who are you listening to? You know, who's on your playlists right now?
Oh gosh. I just went through a deep Radiohead review, which I liked. Um, there's a couple of albums I like there. Um, newish things. You're asking me hard questions. Again, Paul Simon has been my go-to lately.
Hmm.
Um, I always like I always make playlists, lots of big band stuff. Coltrane is huge on my mind, obviously. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
Brecker. Um,
Yeah,
and
Brecker. Hmm.
I don't know. Oh, Egberto Gismonti all the time. Like I just can't listen to him enough. And then my mentor, Jim McNeely, who passed away last year, I'm always listening to his music because he tends to write prolific, engaging themes and events for jazz at a very high level.
Yeah, and we should just mention that Michael Brecker has passed, but he was a real force back in sort of like the 80s, early
Mhm.
90s sort of period. Well, I'm sorry to hear that McNeely's gone. That must be tough. But I guess what I could also ask is which musicians would you like or love to record with the most next?
Oh, I have no idea. My
You don't know.
sister,
Your
Ingrid and
sister,
I,
yeah.
we always have
It's
fun in the
great. I love
studio. We
Ingrid.
just dive in and it's just one big party of fun and sound. No
Yeah.
matter how we do it. I was listening to Ben Monder last night with Bad Plus as they finished their cycle of touring, and he's
Hmm.
always a sound in my mind that I love working with. Maybe him with large ensemble would be fun. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. A lot of Brazilians. I worked with this guy the other night that was a beautiful pianist from Brazil, Vitor Gonzalez from northern Brazil. Beautiful spirit, beautiful energy comes out of all the Hermeto Pascal. These are all people I love listening to.
Do you have any regrets? Is that a tough question?
Teach less, perform more, write more, teach less. But you have to make a living
Yeah,
in these times, so
yeah,
this
yeah,
is what I do.
yeah. Well, tell me about your upcoming projects. What's next for you?
Well, this Coltrane 100th, the Montreal Jazz Festival gave me a carte blanche for Coltrane. They called me to say, please do something. So the everyone's hyping up for a show I have on July 1st with an all-star band here,
Oh,
which is
great.
myself, um, Montreal Stalwarts, which is Jim Doxis and Francois Bourassa, Remy-Jean Leblanc, Andre Leroux, and my good friend Lex French, who I work with
Oh,
our
I
group.
love him. I
We
just
have a
love
group
him.
called Code. We got
I
nominated for Juno.
I know
It
you
was
did.
super fun. We're like a
Yeah,
cordless fun band.
yeah.
So yeah, we're all gonna throw down that again, that spiritual journey of Coltrane, which jazz would not be the same without the footprint that Coltrane left with his group. So
Mm-hmm.
I know we're celebrating lots of different 100th birthdays. I also worked on Melba Liston a lot this past year. But Coltrane, top five of changing sound in the world. Do you know what I mean? Top
Yeah,
five. Put
agreed. Agreed.
him and Ellington and Bach and maybe Beethoven, maybe. And that's about it. I just think they've really sculpted sound and pushed it forward in a way that somehow captivates us. It doesn't make us not want to listen to it. We want to listen to it.
And for me, it's also the French composers too, as well. I love the
Yeah, the Impressionists for sure.
yeah, yeah.
But again, they come off of Bach, so but Coltrane, I'm telling you, he did his own
Yeah,
thing.
I know. Coltrane's just too much. I mean, and Alice too. I mean, you can listen to them forever. It's just
Yeah.
there's so much there, you know. It's very inspirational music and work in music. So I guess what I should ask you, what's the best way for fans to listen to your music? How can they get your music?
Well, try to buy the CDs from me if I ever have any. Um, that's always the best. Come to shows.
Hmm.
But I using the platforms, I guess. It's all there.
Is it on
And then
Bandcamp and all the
yeah, maybe just
formats?
put it on repeat for days or something. I don't know. But we don't see the monetary sort of change that we used to. It's all very different. It's differently run. I can't go there right now, but I don't mind if people listen to my music. I just hope they come to my shows and then they come and buy my music from me physically and keep it as a coaster. But
Yeah.
it's a hard world out there with all that.
Yeah. Well, for the musician, it's really gotten difficult. You know, musicians actually used to make money off their recordings, and much of that has been stripped away. I would say it has happened with, formats like Spotify and et cetera.
Yeah.
You know, streaming has really been a hard blow for musicians, and not to mention AI is now surfacing. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for the chat today, Christine. It's been really wonderful hearing all your news and your thoughts. And you've always been such a force in jazz here in Canada. And you've also broke into the United States, Downbeat giving you the 5 stars, and you were what you were album of the year 1 year, was it?
Yeah.
And rising star saxophonist on those lists, and what was it, a rising big band star as well. You've really done an amazing job putting Canada on the map in for jazz. But it's just been wonderful having you on the show today on Easy Jazz Spotlight. And thanks so much for joining me. And do you have any last thoughts that you want to add?
I hope I can put out some new music soon so people hear it. I haven't really got that in front of me, but I'm going to work on it now that I talked to you.
Oh, great, Christine. I'm looking forward to it. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I'm your host, Kerilie McDowall, and be sure to stay locked on Easy Jazz.
Thanks, Carolee.
You're welcome, Christine. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing my music.
You're welcome.